already. So these other teams got to go back to the drawing board and figure ways to work around this because they're just too good. They're working together as a squad, and it's too hard for these other teams to deal with.
They are bigger, better, faster, stronger. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but they really do seem to be doing everything more efficiently.
Yes.
And they seem to be stronger in a much more straightforward fashion. You know, when we've casted leagues together where it is Korea and then Japan and Chinese Taipei competing, the Koreans look very strong. They definitely have an approach, and I almost feel like it's a bit fancier than the Chinese teams, but it seems like the Chinese teams are just better at these straightforward engages. They're better at holding compounds. They're better at breaking compounds.
Yeah.
And they're better at keeping a 3 or 4 man stack alive.
Well, we saw yesterday that's absolutely the case. So the real question is does that continue today? Historically, I would say the good news is if you're a Korea that in PCSH last year, it was always one day China dominated, the next day Korea dominated. So it was kind of a back and forth seesaw. Will that continue to be the case here with the new format? Right? I mean, that's where you got to make your money.
Yeah, it's a different format than PUBG tournaments in the past, and it requires a different play, and it's why we've had some quieter early rounds, but some pretty insane end games here. As you know, it's great if you can kill players, but the goal is in the traditional battle royale sense. You need to be the last team alive or the last man standing, and so It has been a different approach. It's been somewhat controversial even, but I actually make it for some pretty exciting game.
Yeah, the end games in particular are pretty interesting, pretty hectic. Mid to late game there's a lot more teams alive, there's a lot more players alive, so definitely things getting a little more congested on that front. Here you go, the prize pool breakdown, guys. It's the same for all 3 weeks. And then if you get the series win, so if you're the team that makes the most money throughout the course of the 3 weeks, then you get an extra $20,000 on top of it. Plus there's crowdfunding. You go into the PUBG client, check out the esports store. There's all kinds of awesome skins for your guns, for your vehicles, for your backpacks, for your clothes. Everything you could ever want is there. They're pretty sick. You can get some coupons too to vote on the games and maybe get a little extra prizes. So a lot to be had here, not just for the players, but for you at home.
And get in there and participate. Let the people at PUBG know you love this game as an esport and you want to support it. So yeah, a lot on the line here, not just about the prize pool though, but of course trying to advance to the top. With PUBG being one of the most international games, this is really a fight to try to prove that you are the most dominant squad, not just in your region, but in the entire world.
Yeah, precisely. And I think there's a lot of regional pride on the line here between Korea and China in particular, looking at this region. And then at the end of the year, what is it going to look like when everybody comes together for the global? Who's going to come through and dominate? It's been Asia at times. NA came through big for PGIS. What's going to be the story? Let's look at yesterday's stories. Ghibli and Kai Shin. And Ghibli, again, like you mentioned earlier, just with that one win at the very end of the day.
Funny, because in the standings earlier, I wasn't paying much to their kill count because, frankly, I was more focused on the other 5 teams that had already won and was one of those teams going to come out ahead. But Ghibli, in winning that final team fight there, actually bumped their kill count up to the lead. And so they're real contenders to take this whole thing now. It's hard to get, more than about 7 or 8 kills in a round unless you're really dominating. So to have that 40 kill count lead is huge. We'll see if she win another one, because I think if Ghibli can win a second chicken dinner tonight, they're basically guaranteed to take this. Unless they have garbage rounds for everything else.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The first team killed or something.
No, you're precisely correct. I think if they win another one, that could very well be the end of it. Here, let's take a look at this match at the very end. Ghibli's in a horrible spot on this one. They're stuck behind a rock. All 4 of them are kind of in the same spot. There's a few of these pimento trees or whatever the heck they are that are blocking the vision. And you can see they lose a couple people. There's a great grenade. That's a really nice shot. But a great grenade before that from Lambu that knocks 2 members of 4AM. And then MCG's never really able to get up over this hill. And even though Ghibli's at a disadvantage numbers-wise, they're able to use the terrain efficiently and effectively to take down MCG.
Yeah, so many insane games that we had here on both of our maps. And it was weird. We had so many weird circles on Erangel. I got to point that out. We had 2 out of 3 games where these weird circles that went down to Snovstovka Island. in a very uncomfortable fashion. I'm curious to see what we're going to have here today here. You can see MCG, another team that was very close along with KX to actually taking the lead, and it kept slipping between their fingers.
MCG was in it to win it a lot. Yeah, KX and MCG in particular were really impressive in their ability to get to late game. They both came out with one win for their efforts, and I think you're right. A few of them slipped through the fingers, and that's got to be kind of irking at them a bit today. I think if you're looking at the insane squads so far, with teams that are, at least putting up interesting numbers for kills, 17 has been really powerful, and E36 had that game on Miramar where they defended a multi-pronged push from two different Chinese teams at the same time.
That was pretty sick. Now, we should point out, E36, a Japanese team actually doing well. Japan's been a weak PUBG region, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's always worth reiterating that Japan is kind of picked up esports extremely late, especially when compared to its Asian neighbors. So we'll see if E36 can win another one. I do want to point out their kill count in a shot here of this insane takedown where they got just sprayed down 17 there. It is important to note their kill count's very low. They're at 17 kills total.
Right, and most of the damage was in this game.
Yeah, and most of it was in the highlights we're seeing here now.
So they're going to need to pick it up, of course. 17, very active map, as you would kind of maybe expect from these Chinese squads. They'll take fights if they have the advantage. They'll do a pretty good job dismantling you. Really tough players. They're mechanically solid. And you can see here, Lil Ghost gets multiple ways. He's able to shoot people at the vehicles that are coming at him, and then he lands a really nice grenade. Really good use of that rock for cover to keep himself obscured from the vehicle that's approaching him. And here we saw Sujui just going absolutely ham in this game. I mean, that guy just by himself was just dismantling people, but then Summer's grenade going to be the one that finished the job as they got stuck behind that hill.
Yeah, it's been such a dramatic first day here. I do think we're going to match it again here. And I don't think we're going to know who's going to win this until maybe the 5th or even 6th map here tonight.
That's typically true for this format. You do often not know until the very end, and because the win distribution tends to be pretty even. We saw this in Europe earlier, this morning, our time.
Right.
That everybody in Europe, it's the same thing. It was all 6 games, 6 different teams won. So, I mean, you can see at these really competitive high levels of PUBG that is good enough to get wins. So it's not too surprising to see that it's different teams every time because there's so many talented players and teams throughout all the regions.
Yeah, a big theme today has been that as strong as Korea looked leading up to this tournament, they've basically been in the background of pretty much every map, with the exception of Game 6 yesterday where we saw Ghibli win. But Korea has struggled to gate, especially when trying to break into compounds. They are just simply shut down. They get anywhere near a Chinese compound. And you're not able to win a round if you can't at least confront one team.
It's become exponentially important.
We have such a big kill disparity. Look, you can hide out as long as you want. There's nothing wrong with just taking that final few kills and then scooping up the win at the very end. Engagements and see if Korea can improve. I do think that the Korean teams are dynamic enough and fluid enough that they can try to self-correct overnight.
Sure.
And maybe come back with stronger play, as you were mentioning, Paper Thin. We've seen that before. The question is, are we going to see it tonight? Because if not, most assuredly, it's going to be a Chinese victory.
Yeah, it definitely, with the way things went yesterday, it felt pretty strong, leaning towards the Chinese side. Of course, taking a look at Indigo, a Korean player now playing for a Japanese team, had a decent day yesterday. They're just kind of talking about how he's doing his damage, so they're breaking it down, like where he's getting his kills and his damage here. You can see he's very good on Miramar, as we saw yesterday. That's where they got their win and most of their kills and stuff, and kind of better on the defender side, a little bit better in the short distance with Indigo, but still a solid sniper. A solid all-around player, really, with him.
So we're for the map format, we're going to be going back and forth. So it's not a situation where we have all Erangel or 3 Erangel, and then we go to Miramar. And that required players to really adjust. One of the reasons why we had a format before, where it was all the maps stacked together, is because the pro gamers want it.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't want to give pro gamers too much control in your esports tournament, because they will make it more boring, because the better it is for them, the better it is for them.
Yes.
And so we're going to have to see the players really shift gears in how they're going to approach every single game. Erangel, a map with a lot of foliage, a lot of cover, rolling hills, easy to move your vehicles around. Well, not that easy.
Easier.
Easier. It's never that easy to move your vehicle in PUBG, but very different when compared, to a desert map where you don't have hiding spots, especially if you have to move out of a big compound to go somewhere else. A lot of steep cliffs where you can end up crashing your car. A lot of times you have to stay on the road. So it'll be fun to see if we have teams that can actually play on both different maps.
Yeah, yes, it feels like oftentimes that teams just kind of are better at one or the other, and there's teams that'll just admit it. They'll just say, yeah, we're better at Erangel, we're better at Miramar, or whatever, and you can see it in their games. I mean, the most dynamic contrast of this to me so far here throughout all the PCSs was an APAC with a Thailand team, Buriram United, who just wins on Miramar, and then the Australian team, Fury, who just wins on Erangel. It's like I could literally go into the prediction pick'ems and be like, well, I'm just going to pick Fury every time on Erangel and Buriram every time on Miramar, and I got half the games right. I was like, all right.
And even though PUBG's been out for a while now, it's still a pretty young esport. I mean, if you're going to have a good esport, it has to age like wine, not like milk. And I think that, honestly, PUBG is aging very well, but we may have future maps down the road that are also going to require a different play style as well.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think there's going to be more bigger maps coming through here, more that fit the esports kind of model where you need these big 8-kilometer by 8-kilometer maps. So you have all the teams have enough room to maneuver and do the things that they want to do. Of course, we used to try Sanhok, but it really just wasn't that effective for the esports situation.
It does still happen on big maps, but you really don't want a lot of shutdowns immediately where someone just lands next to each other, and then the RNG really does kick in, and it's like, oh, I only got a flash grenade, and you got a rifle, and now you've killed me, and now my team is boned for the rest of this round. And so, having enough space on a map where the teams can kind of chop up the territories, land, and then we see what kind of circle we have and what kind of game we're going to get.
Right. The interesting part about PUBG Sports is how teams maneuver on the map, how they take fights, how they push compounds, those kind of things. Like the tactical and strategic decisions they're making. We don't want to watch them just loot stuff and just see if they get lucky.
I mean, it can make some cool drama, but I mean, if you have teams that are going to be sponsored and playing and trying to grind all day to actually compete, you don't want that. But I think seeing these different maps and the different play styles is very fun, and I think especially when you top it off with whatever kind of circle you're going to get. I mean, this is where the real novelty of the game actually comes in, because every circle has a different story behind it.
Right.
And how that team comes out to win. Some teams, they hide the whole time and they squeak out at the end with a victory. Other teams have to really power through and fight a lot. Anyways, I like the Halloween fun we have for this week. We're going to be going into game one, guys. Tell your friends to join us here, as we're going to be wrapping up the first week here at PUBG with many more games to come.
Yeah,
Not that many more. Two more weekends after this.
A fair amount.
Almost a month's worth of weekends.
Plenty of PUBG.
Terrible at finding fancy ways to quantify this. All right. Our playing path coming from the center east and cutting through to the west. This will give our teams a lot of different areas they can land in. It's not a rough playing path where, some of the sites you want to try to land on can't be reached.
Yeah, this one's pretty interesting. It's not super likely to go down to the military island, so now you have kind of a question with a team like Damwon Kia, where are they going to end up dropping, because they usually like to drop on the military base here. In this particular tournament, they've just kind of given up on this. So in Korea, they're a team that drops Pachinki. They don't really fight for that in international events anymore. It just doesn't seem to go their way. So they've kind of given up on that particular scenario. There's been a lot of interesting movements with the drop spots. I find it to be somewhat important, not super important. I think when I start talking to a lot of the top players and teams about their drop spot locations, how important it is to fight for them, most of them are like, meh. It's we should be able to do it from anywhere.
It seems like now, with the esports mode on here, you really are able to just get what you need pretty quickly.
Sure.
In the early days of PUBG, sometimes you land and be like, I can't.
Yeah.
One of the key things I need, I'm not finding a first aid kit, or I'm not finding the scope that's going to make me viable later on. But everybody gets it now.
Yeah, you find like a box of crayons, and you're like, well, I can throw these at somebody. I don't think it's going to do much. Yeah, I think in general, you got to be flexible with your drop spots in PUBG Esports in some respects, because we've seen historically how if teams fight over drop spot locations, it typically doesn't go super well for them in the long run. It hampers them from having any chance of really competing for the title, at the very least. So you got to be flexible, you got to be maneuverable. Ghibli and 4AM, you can see they're up in the top hand right of your screen. They were a team that last year did fight over the school drop spot, but now they've kind of settled in with Ghibli up in Razak. 4AM still controls the school area, but that one literally spanned multiple events. Like, I'm not even kidding. I mean, it was so ridiculous. If you didn't see these last year, it actually got me, like, I very rarely get tilted as a caster about like watching the players and teams do what they do because they're pros and I'm not. And it's like, all right, but these guys fought for so long, it actually started to make me mad. I was like, this is just beyond like the realm of like what is like normal.
Yeah, so we've got a circle here that hugs to the right. This could make for a lot of different end games here, but it's going to be one with a lot of space here for the teams to try to stake out different territories. So I imagine, unless we have some real surprises here, this should be a fairly quiet first couple minutes going into this.
Yeah, maybe. Well, the weird part is that a bunch of teams dropped up here by North George. You're absolutely right. Typically, we see in Asia that things are quiet, but because the plane path doesn't have parts of the military island really available, there's basically no way. We were just watching the end of the previous game here.
Like,
I want to finish my point highlight.
The desert map. What happened? All the trees died.
Watch Lambu land this grenade. Like, this is just ridiculous. He gets two. Like, look at how much health 4AM has too. Like, or as I said, the follow-up grenade here.
Oh, this is a great shot.
Oh, look at this.
We've really improved production so much in PUBG.
It's like those sports movies where like the guys go in to like catch the ball. It's like in slow-mo.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird too, by the way. I meant to mention this before we started the games here, but like we haven't had a 4AM win.
Not yet.
And
they're getting kills.
More than half of all the casters predicted a 4AM victory, and I mean, I wouldn't say we were particularly brave picking 4AM. I thought it was a pretty safe bet, but so far they haven't performed well enough to take a single chicken dinner.
Not yet, but
I think it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. They're putting up good kill numbers. I think they're trying some weird stuff because remember yesterday on the last Erangel game where they like camped right on the edge of the circle?
Yeah.
Like killed Pero, which is fine, but they lost a player for it, and it was like, why would you do that in the most chicken format unless you're like trying to flex or you're just that comfortable that you think you're good enough that you're going to win a game anyway?
Or you're trying to take them down with you because you have a lead over them, which they didn't. So
right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's kind of odd. I'm also curious sometimes to see, when do they actually identify what team this is they're fighting to? Where we get to be kind of omnipotent in these games. And so we see the two teams fighting where for them it's just another squad, right?
Right. I think, you'd be surprised how often teams have a pretty good idea of what the other team is that they're fighting.
I guess that is true, is like you usually know the drop areas well enough, but
sometimes they
for
don't.
sure.
Sometimes they're like, I think it's this, like you'll listen to their comms and they're like, I'm pretty sure it's this team, and they'll be wrong, and they're like, oh, it's this team, and it doesn't really affect the situation that much. A lot of times, because all the teams are really good, so they know that they have to be kind of on the ball no matter what. But in some situations, it does make a difference because teams have very particular play styles. Pero's a team that, some teams, if they crash into 4AM like that, might just peel off and not try to fight them. And Pero's not a team that's probably going to do that. Pero's probably just going to try to go toe-to-toe with you if you challenge them. So you got to be aware of that in that sense. There's a lot that goes into the psychological aspect of PUBG for sure.
So here we're getting a shot of 4AM. I think they're not far from school right now. And again, 4AM is a team we're kind of expecting to get a win no matter what today. If they don't, that might be one of the biggest surprises of the entire tournament. But they seemed like they were a safe bet, but if any of the other Chinese teams get a victory here, it's going to be extremely taxing for 4AM to pull it off. Again, keep in mind that KX really almost looked like the best team overall yesterday.
Yeah.
They just didn't actually get the chicken dinners, but they're second in kills. They've had 3 So literally half of the games we had yesterday, 3 times they were one of the final 2 teams left over. So that's pretty astounding. A couple engagements go differently, and they would literally be up 3 wins.
And this is without their superstar player, Cobra.
Yeah, and initially, upon finding out that Cobra would be unable to participate in this tournament, I think it was only natural to kind of count them out, at least on some level.
Yeah.
Apparently that's not the case. Apparently they seem to be, if they can be this consistent, possibly the most viable.
Yeah, they've really got a good handle on how to approach this lobby, at least so far yesterday. I mean, for me, UREN is a player that I've hyped up because he's really good with the bolt-action rifles, but he's great with the DMRs as well, which you saw him switch over to yesterday. And again, I think a big part of that is because Cobra's not there, so he doesn't have that freedom to use the bolt actions, because in some ways you need a little bit of cover to be able to go for them. Like your team, you have to rely on your teammates to give you the ability to kind of be that person who can kind of sit there in one spot and kind of bounce up and down, but look around and see what's going on around you. And damage dealer role. The DMRs are better suited for that particular spot.
Taking a look at T1, I feel like I'm always hard on T1, but maybe not hard enough. They are at the bottom. They have had 7 kills, so barely a kill for each match, and it's weird. I'm only talking about them because they're on camera, and in case you guys haven't caught on in a Korean production, we're just a little bit more likely with our, we're paired with a Korean cast as well, and so we can follow the Korean teams. But T1's always looked like good about half the time, or good in about half of the map, which is, of course, never good enough to get a victory. But it's crazy to see how buried they have been in this. I mean, in every stat right now.
They're outclassed in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Their team fighting isn't good enough. They're caught kind of off guard. They get sandwiched a lot. Their map awareness not great. Donawa and Mad, there could be a crash here. Now, Mad, in a way, but you can kind of settle up between top and the bottom. But Lash goes up and over the hill, thinking that maybe that spot is available. Didn't get enough information that Donawa is up there. Genji hitting Afrika. Esther going to be knocked here. There was an Afrika member. EJ has been knocked as well. Is Genji going to commit to the fight? Wow, I can't believe we're having these kind of crashes this early in this one.
Yeah, this is pretty wild here. Right now we're watching Akkad take some shots, but he's then down for a second.
Now Hansia trying to come around. Akkad did barely get the better of PO. Akkad's just, wow,
that's it.
Just won.
Genji just gets trashed there. And that's, again, one of our teams. By the way, Genji right next to T1 and just really bad results. And this is weird, to be honest, just, as someone who's casted a lot of Korean teams, to see how puny the Korean teams seem in comparison to their Chinese counterparts.
I just don't understand what they're doing there.
Like, I didn't notice they only had 9 kills.
Yeah, they're doing terrible.
There's a lot of numbers to kind of glaze over here. 9 kills is terrible for Genji. Genji generally regarded as one of the best fighting teams that we have here.
Yep.
And clearly fighting something they've not succeeded at all.
No, they're not doing anything right. I mean, that right there, it's just a bad decision. I'm sorry. I have to call it what it is. You can't just blind crash a compound phase 1 in a most chicken dinner rule. Typically, Genji doesn't do that kind of stuff. They're typically a team that's very methodical, very safe, very planned out. Now, over here towards Donawa, again, they're a team that likes to fight. We know that. At 2-tap, almost all those metal bars just saved the bacon of Donawa there. They absolutely should have gotten knocked. I think it was Salute coming down the hill. So that's a little bit of a misstep for Matt. A little bit of damage to End coming around the corner. Soul trying to hold down the fort there. 2-tap going to go for the grenade. End is going to try to push in. Donawa swarming around, and they're getting caught off guard. They're losing both of them to Deva.
God. And again, it's just like we were talking about 45 seconds ago. Our Korean teams are not taking the fights we're used to them taking. I mean, even when they pushed in there, they didn't have that back corner by the bathroom covered. They both tried to do a hard left, and were completely blindsided. We should note in this first phase 1 circle, so the one previous to this, because we're in phase 2 now, but the first phase 1 circle, I mean, there's a lot of different compounds you could take.
Yeah.
This is usually a circle that would allow for the most drawn out early game, but instead I think we're seeing some questionable decisions. And I believe, especially in that second engagement, they should have seen cars parked outside the house.
Well, Lash drove up to them and they killed him. Like because it's a two-tiered complex, right? There's the buildings on the top, which Donawa had, the better part of that complex, by the way, and then the bottom part, which Mad drove into and decided to stop it. You can share that. There's no reason that you need to fight there. Like, both teams can be like, okay, fine, you get the bottom half, we get the top half. For now, let's draw a truce up. Let's, there's a neutral zone here. That's that hill down in between us. Everything else is, whatever at that point. But Donawa just really decided that they wanted to try to take the fight, try to bully Mad out of there, and they pay the price for it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's our two best Korean teams from PWS gone. I mean, that's already in this match.
But I think it's to some extent by their own doing.
Of course, yes.
I mean, look, this is a chicken dinner format, obviously, and I don't think there is a real incentive to try to claim a compound that isn't yours. Literally, with this circle, there is more than enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
Other circles, not the case, right? I mean, especially these ones where it's over 50% is over a body of water and therefore unplayable terrain.
Sure.
No, then it makes sense. And so I do wonder about a move like that. But here we have two of the star Korean teams out of the picture. And then you look at a Japanese team like E36, and I say, well, I think these guys have a better idea. Yeah, they only have 17 kills, 10 more than T1. Not a lot, but they are playing, I think, to their most likely, how do I say this? This is the most likely way to win for a team like this. And I think Korea is having to realize pretty quickly here, at least the two that have been eliminated, these are not strong fighting teams. Honestly, our fighting teams from Korea, Ghibli and Afrika.
Yeah, they're better at it right now, for sure. Genji should be better, but they're not. And Donawa as well should be better, but they're not. I don't even know. It's hard to describe how odd those decisions were for these two teams, because we've never seen them do that kind of stuff in the PWS. Why would you, at a tournament like this, all of a sudden change up your mentality? And that's got to come down to the play callers. They need to kind of take some criticism there for that. They got to be rethinking these ideas. Well, this team is good at crashing, so this is, not too unexpected. But Ghibli, great at defending. A big fight here. Initial not going to be on it forever. Two down quickly, though, but another grenade from Renba. It's a bunch of 4 a.m. Things are falling apart here on this push.
Yeah, taking a shot here. Renba coming up, trying to get a kill over here. Does pull it off, taking out Crazy.
Adder's locked down where Xiaolu is.
Yeah, Adder having a hard time finding a good shot that he might be able to take. Nade comes down, explodes, does not end up hitting any targets.
They've got pretty good tracking on where Xiaolu is. You can see Renba very ready for it. Didn't connect his shots, though. Has to move back because that's a molly coming out of the hands there of Xiaolu, the last one alive. He did get up to the second story. That's nice. Adder trying to keep him pinned, and Adder going to win that duel. That's very important for Adder there. If he gets knocked, all of a sudden that fight is a very different situation. So well done.
So the circle pulls in further here. It's mostly centered over Mansion right now. Taking a shot of E36. Again, you don't want to count these guys out. I'm excited that we're giving them a little bit more screen time here, because there is a real chance they could end up scooping up that second win and taking the lead. And at this point in time, guys, we don't know if this is going to be a victory more about chicken dinners or more about kills here.
True.
Because there's a very high chance that we end up maybe even with nobody getting 2 wins.
That's
or a couple teams all getting 2 wins, and then it was the kills that counted. We don't know. But again, E36 squeaks out a few, 1 or 2 more. Maybe they take it.
If they win a second game, that might be good enough. You never know.
Yeah. Especially because it seems like the predicament for the Chinese teams in general is they're all so good that there isn't one star team that actually outshines them, at least yesterday.
Yeah, that's very true. They all had moments yesterday, it felt like, where they're playing really, really well. 4 a.m. Going down early, but at least that was phase 2. I will say that. The thing about chicken dinner format, I don't mind if you crash phase 2 and go for something center. I actually find that to be fine. But those phase 1 fights are just completely pointless, in my opinion. So it is what it is. Heaven going to be occupied. We call this the Sky Garden in Korea. Everybody else in the world calls it Heaven, but the Koreans call it Sky Garden. I like that better. I think that's a cooler, more intricate name.
Pero. I'm sorry, where's Pero on the map?
Yasnaya.
Okay. Yeah, they're outside Yasnaya here. Right now, everybody's basically gathered up a compound. It should be a bit of a waiting game, a couple sniper shots across the map, of course. take what you can get. It is going to be a situation where there are teams that are close to the middle, and then the rest of the teams are going to have to be toilet bowling. Is there a better side of the circle to be on paper thin right now, like the top or the bottom?
Actually, it's hard to say for sure. There's the forest in the middle, like dead center of this circle, in between like the mansion and where E36 is. That's pretty decent. Like in the like a fun place to fight in the late game. There's a lot of cool terrain in there, a lot of trees. But like everything's not bad in this circle at this point because the Yasnaya fields are out. The south area mansion is out. That's just flat garbage. The Pubg hills are still in, so that's not too bad. Everything in this is actually fine. I'd say the worst spot is kind of like north of the road by Yasnaya. That's probably the worst spot like to play in. But everybody else is kind of okay. E36 dead center, so that's they're probably going to be in for the next couple circles at least.
Ooh, okay, a hard shifted circle pulls down and to the right. Multi-circle gaming right now, looking to be in a much better spot. Gex as well. Gex, one of our bottom-ranked teams, but let's see here. They do have a pretty good position, especially in a circle like this where there's a few clusters of buildings spread out. You really want to watch for the teams that are going to be able to stay inside. They're much more likely to survive until the end, especially if that circle keeps pulling on over them. And we still got 13 teams left. Phase 4, so we're almost halfway done with this round, but there's going to be a lot of fighting outdoors now.
Yeah, now things get a lot more difficult for the teams that are outside of the circle. The inside of the circle is not the worst, it's not the best. It's fairly playable in some ways, but with a lot of teams already stacked up on the edges of this circle in the compounds, finding something inside is going to be a little more challenging than not. Ghibli is going to send Lambu ahead into this shack, trying to just establish some kind of beachhead, figure out what's going on around him. He can at least, peek through those the slots up in the top of the shack window and see what's going on around him. There's a lot of hills that he can see, at least get a decent amount of information. Peril's having to rotate through the blue. I think they're going to try to come south to north, but again, nothing is particularly free at this point.
Pero here trying to do a pretty hard counterclockwise rotation here. They are going to be in the scopes of 17. 17 oftentimes pretty vicious out on the field here. But I think especially these teams on the left-hand side outside the circle are going to have a very hard time. They might be able to get behind the wall on the outside of Mansion, although I don't know how safe you're going to feel there.
You never feel safe there. Yeah. It's actually safe right now, though. More or less, hilariously enough. But
yeah, it does look like KX is kind of more focused on looking into the center of the circle and looking across the map. They aren't watching their flank very carefully.
No, and it's hard to from that spot. There's a lot of trees over in this area. You can see right here, 17's pulling up to that edge.
Look at this. This is crazy. They just sneak right in.
Yeah.
They're in the guest house.
Yeah, the guest house. That's where you go when you're visiting. Yeah, and they'll be fine there for now. So there's no reason to do much. MCG tried to push Kaishin at one point, lost a couple members on that. I don't know. Again, these early fights where teams are just getting aggressive on each other, I'm not so sure. Ghibli doesn't have much choice, though. This is actually tough for Ghibli because they have to come in from that north side that I was talking about, kind of suck more than the rest of the circle.
Yeah. Oh, man, big bloodbath here. Kia and a Freaks are duking it out right now. Kia getting the upper hand in this fight. Poncia can't save the day. All of his teammates are just going to bleed out here, and I don't know that he's in a position that's going to be very doable to do that here. Poncia basically marooned out now onto the map. Again, Kia, EMT, Ghibli, T1, all going to have to keep pushing out, and whoa, this circle.
And GFY just died to E36.
So right now, the two best positions are pretty obvious. It's for Gex and Mad. It probably won't be a circle that ends up over their buildings, but it does make it a little bit easier to kind of last into, the phase 7 or phase 8 where this would most likely close out. But again, it's tricky. We have 12 teams left, and there is some to work with, I should say, but
sure.
not a great amount.
Yeah, it's not the best. Again, it's not the best. It's not the worst. You could have way worse circles for sure. So, but there isn't a lot of compounds. There's the one compound that had Danawa not fought Mad for it, they'd still be in this right now. And again, I don't understand that decision, and I'll try not to get too angry about it. Heaven here trying to push forward into the shack, kind of reminiscent of what we saw Ghibli trying to do earlier, but he's going to get knocked trying to do that. T1 losing a member out of the vehicle. He gets run over. MCG with their 2 people left are just going to hug the edge. A few other teams that had the opportunity to do so, the vehicles to do so, trying to make a push from the center, but you can see it is a little bit dicey because, again, a lot of teams on the edge, so you're going to take a lot of damage trying to get in. Kia, well, they're underneath MTech. MTech has pretty good firing lines on this fight.
Yeah, pretty awful position here for Kia. But again, the smokes can buy you time and kind of generate cover, but it's not going to last that long. And it looks like MTech is going to be able to close in on this pretty easily without having to worry about even flanks, really. But again, we're seeing this a lot today, is actually these Korean teams just wiping each other out. It's the Chinese teams that are basically pulling through and lasting. We should also note there's only 3 teams with a 4-man stack. It's KX, E36, and Gex.
E36 is going to have to fight Multi-Circle Gaming, the remnants of them, under trying to do something that Grenade just short of doing critical damage to Gyuyun. So he's going to go for the second one there in the same spot. That one's good enough.
Damn.
Close enough?
Yeah, close enough to start the bleeding here. And, I don't know, MTech in a tricky spot. I mean, Picky is alive, but now he's being shot, and this kill zone's going to nudge him out into a dangerous area, and so MTech's then eliminated.
And they're still alive, but for how much longer? I mean, whoa, with some good shooting like that. That was filthy. Hits the head of Lambu. And then instantly hits the body next. So that's the knock there. Here is MCG and E36.
Ooh, E36!
Yeah, they're doing good. They defended a push from GFY. It was kind of on the smaller screen when we were watching the map. And they're rocking and rolling, man. They've got the edge of the circle in this forest. Let's see if they can do something with it.
Yeah, we got to see where KX goes. I do think KX is a far superior fighting team than E36, and we are seeing them start to fire back and forth at each other. It looks like they're going to have to both push a little bit further into the west. Gex, by the way, hauling ass here with vehicles moving more towards a central location. They're going to try to barricade up while Ghibli and Mad are basically just going to bide their time inside the buildings as it's still inside the circle.
Yeah, okay, now Ghibli's on top of E36, so it's just Renba, though, so if they can kind of keep him at bay, but they're going to have to use a lot of smokes, it looks like, earlier probably than you would like. Phase 6 smokes, not the ideal time that you would probably be wanting to use them. You'd prefer much to save them into 7 and 8. And 9, of course, that's where they're really going to be worth the weight that they carry in your backpack. Mamu, the only one left for Pero, indeed. The only one left for Pero. Kaishin has a really difficult move here to make. You can see they're loading up their vehicles. They're going to try and send Yuppie and Mongol out into this kind of dual rock formation. But again, everybody can see what they're doing in this part.
Right. This is a pretty tricky one that they're in right now. KX! And E36, the fighting continues, and honestly, E36 not looking that bad.
Oh, they're looking great. They just wiped
Kaishin
out.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Now, again, KX is a team you always have to kind of keep an eye on because all they need to do is win 1 or 2 more here, and they could just scoop the lead, not just in chicken dinners, but in kills as well here. And now we're at our Final Four, and what a Final Four it is. E36, Gex, Mad, and Ghibli. Now, if Ghibli wins, they are way up in the front, and same with E36. E36 has actually got a decent amount of kills. We're at the 24, and of course, if they win this, they're probably going to scoop up about 4 or 5 more in that process.
Yep. Why? Okay.
Now, if Gex wins this, we just still have no idea who's going to win this, because I don't think Gex can win 2 games.
Yeah, we missed Adder's AWM shot. I'm so sad about that. He just clipped somebody's head. But no. If Gex wins this, then things are really topsy-turvy, for sure. Mad here, again, this is the same compound that they fought over, that Donawa pushed them on. I mean, they could have shared it. It could have been Donawa in this position potentially now, or, them still sharing it. I don't know. Anyway, long story short, Matt is in a pretty decent spot. They got to come downhill eventually, but there's some stuff to work with. Gex in a pretty decent position, but so far this tournament has been a struggle for them. They've been outgunned, outplayed. Can they get something done? E36 looks like they're going to load up the car and make their move.
E36 knows, they don't always last that long. They're not the best fighting team. This may be their shot to actually take this, and who knows, man, maybe win the whole thing. They're going to set up here by the trees. It's important to note, only E36 and Gex have 4-man stacks.
Oh, God, they're going to crash this.
Oh, this is...
They're going to crash Gex here, just do a drive-by and just see, okay, it's just scouting.
They're going to pull away.
It's just scouting.
Yeah, that's insane. They're all going to scout inside the car. I thought it'd be just one, but... Oh, no, it was just two, excuse me.
It was three.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. It was... I'm right, sorry. It was three. They were crazy for doing that. Now, keep in mind, Ghibli can still rely on the house. And if Ghibli takes this, again, they take a lead in every sense. Chicken dinner and kills.
Yeah, absolutely. If Ghibli does take it. Mad has a lot of kills as well. So if they get a win, they're right up there in the conversation. So a lot of teams can definitely still kind of get this done. E36 now going to push ahead. I like this methodical, measured approach from E36, getting information first and then making their move. Really, really smart stuff.
Right, Remba way out here at this angle. He can kind of spot and see if he sees anybody on the other side. I believe there's a little bit of an elevated area in the center here, so these teams can't quite see each other. You can see Gex and E36. From a bird's eye view, it might look like they could be shooting each other. They, in fact, can't. And I think we got to go to Phase 8 and maybe even Phase 9.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Mad is in a weird spot, and they're the only team that hasn't basically gotten into a safe area.
They're kind of forced to just come down into Two Tap's house and, contest Ghibli for that spot, basically, is what I think is probably going to happen here. That's my best guess. You can see they're just going to do it on foot. It looks like as well. There was a vehicle back there that they maybe could have used. Okay, no. They are going to use the vehicle. Okay. I was curious if they were. I was like, you should probably keep that vehicle if you can. It doesn't hurt not to. I mean, Ghibli knows you're there. It's not like you're surprising anybody that you're in this house,
So, Mad may be forced to take a fight with either Gex or Ghibli. Which, of course, is the dream here for E36. E36 is very nicely positioned in a spot that, as far as I can tell, Gex isn't going to try to push into.
No.
And really, it's kind of this dilemma of the two teams that had the compounds being forced out and where they're going to go. And I think even a counterclockwise push here from Ghibli, it's a pretty far distance to travel to get to E36, who, of course, already have, that advantage of having scopes pointed in that direction.
Yeah, nobody's pushing anybody until they have to now. And again, it comes down to this end game situation where you don't want to be the first one to make a move. Everybody else has to be moving first ahead of you. Now, Two Tap in a really potentially challenging position if Ghibli tries to push him. He's the only one down here.
Wow.
Especially now. Now really Mad has to come down to this spot.
Now, again, if Mad wins this, they'd be just another team with one win. This may be one of the most important maps out of all 12 games that we were going to have here this weekend. Shots now coming down here, and right now Gex just seems like what happens to Gex continues on in this game is they're just not as good at fighting. But let's not give up on them yet. They still have 2 players left.
Savior's in a cheeky little spot. He could pop up and get a quick double if Matt isn't careful. If they're not aware of this potential maneuver that he just made, he gets back up to full health with the med kit there. And so he's got his M4 ready. Could spring to action at some point. Adder, a lot of level 3 gear here for GPS. Adder looking to see if he can catch a member of Mad. He's kind of standing still for a split second. GEX, the problems continue as Savior came down the hill and E36 spotted him on the way down and made pretty quick work of him.
All right, Adder with a quick reload here. Tries to take a shot. Can't connect that to end. Going to back up a little bit here. Mad still taking good advantage of the fact that they're basically the only team that has any access to structures and could take advantage of that inside or outside them. Still 4 teams. This is a very protracted endgame here. Right now, Mad, they need to go to res here, which I think they will pull off. They'll be back to a 3-stack here. E36 still outnumbering our other teams, and they're doing a pretty good job of staying quiet.
Yeah, E36 is playing this very, very well right now. And they're benefiting from the fact that Ghibli and Mad kind of have to fight. And this is buying them a lot of time and space to really get themselves positioned nicely and wait for the inevitable Phase 9, which just centers up in the middle of all of this. That grenade catches a decent part up on the top there of Deva. Gonna have to go for the heals.
Ghibli's getting into a very weird spot because Phase 9 is going to force them around these walls. I don't know if they want to parkour over it either.
Oh, look at that. He just kind of loops around. The smokes are covering it. There's a lot of smokes here. I'm sure this is both teams throwing these.
All right, Ghibli going to try to inch in here. Just around the corner is Mad. Now moving through the house. 2-tap is right there under his nose.
Oh boy. He's able to get some good information, but that grenade, hits the outside of the building, doesn't get in the window. So that's a missed opportunity there for Mad. They were really had a potential to at least do some decent damage to maybe even get a knock if they're lucky. There's the knock with the grenade on to Renba. Things falling apart here for Ghibli. Let's see if they can recover. Adder and Lamb, who's still stuck in that house though. And here comes E36.
Okay, Mad is just destroying right now. They're taking so many fights. It's insane. Ghibli in hot water now.
They're dead.
Gex is gone. Old Gibbles is gone. And now it's E36 and Mad. Again, if E36, our Japanese team, wins this, they go up into the lead. They are outnumbering Mad.
Oh, but they got to be better. They got to be better. Dave is so strong, and you can see Pure Boy just not really ready for this. But now the Blues here.
Yeah, the kill zone starting to really force a position here, a smoky side of the map for Mad. But they're not going to be able to rely on those smokes, nor will they be able to rely on that compound for much longer.
All right, well, you lose Pure Boy up on the flank. That's a problem, but you're still holding down the center, and you've got the ridge to work with. Geekin gets one. Very nice shots with the M4. 2 more to go, and E36 takes the lead.
Geekin's right now crawling over here. Another shot comes down. It doesn't take out N. He pulls back away around the corner, but it's not going to be an easy peek for him. Geekin can move from left to right, and it's going to be very obvious whoever comes around that corner is going to be at a disadvantage when trying to take that shot. Oh! That's insane. Hold on, nade's coming here. Oh the flank backfires.
Oh, this is so close. Amina, they're coming out the other side. He's not ready for it. He's looking. No, the Blues there. Amina.
Oh! He doesn't see him.
They don't see each other. They saw him. Amina, I know he's dead. He got it.
It's down to a 1v1. I don't think anybody can go for a res here.
No.
Tap just to the right.
Oh my God.
It's just down to this one moment. They're right in front of each other.
Mad. Just barely, dude.
God. Oh my God, that was such a great game. Looking mad right now, and I believe this is a recording from earlier. They don't know if they've won yet, right?
I don't know. I think they might know. I think that one was that stressful, Tasteless. I don't think they have any clue.
I stand corrected.
I think they have. I think they do have a clue. I just think it's just draining.
That's how tense it is.
Yeah.
And E36 almost went into the lead. And I'll tell you something, man. Nobody thought a Japanese team was going to take this here.
Well,
even when E36, one of the players' moms ran in when they won yesterday.
Yeah.
Even that guy's mom wasn't very confident that they were going to win. She knows the China region's the best.
The Mamana.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, okay, so now it just gets weirder. Another team with just one win here. I think Ghibli still has the kill count lead.
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah, and I think now Mad jumps into maybe second place. I mean, this is, again, all of a sudden. You held on till the end and got the win.
Taking a quick look back. And this is just what you were talking about.
Well, they did scout this out, and they still... Okay, so they get the knock, and then they decide to push it. Well, all right.
Yeah, I just don't know. In that circle, there's so many compounds you could take that I don't see... I guess I just don't see the rationale for trying to play like that and go for that, you know?
You just don't have enough information at this point.
Yeah.
Right? You get the knock, okay, cool. Move on.
Right.
This is not... He gets 2, and all of a sudden... Your game's done.
So we had a lot of these moments where I think there were Korean teams taking fights that just was not worth it. Again, 4 a.m. just not actually getting wins here. We're starting to run out of tournament right now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean,
5 games left.
Right, for this week, yeah, that's just it. And because it is a week-to-week format, guys, if you're not familiar with this, it's every week, and then we reset the points and stuff, and we go back to the next week. Top team gets the most money and stuff, and so those kind of things. But yeah, I don't know. You gotta start making better decisions.
It was. I guess it was just some weird moves from some of those teams. I feel like they've had a style that worked before, and now it's completely backfiring. And again, getting eliminated that early, especially when you haven't even gotten your first win, there's almost no way you're going to win, right?
You're not getting any kills.
Chicken dinners.
You're right. I mean, for Gen G in particular, they're not getting any kills either.
Yeah.
So they can't do what Mad just did and get a win and shoot up to the top of the leaderboard.
Again, E36, one of the more conservative teams in the tournament, but they nearly won that. A few firefights go differently in a couple of these games, and the results are insanely different. Yeah, I mean, it could have been E36 that wins that, and then, nobody gets a second win, and they just actually become the champions.
They should have won this.
I think so.
They threw it a bit there at the end. I mean, they had him bottlenecked behind that shack, and Amina's watching the back end of the shack through when the blue comes on the back of it, and that's fine. Just in case some players will wait a tick of blue, even at that phase, because you can survive for a couple seconds, and so they might wait that extra second to try to fool you. So he has to respect it, but I think they're going to show us the end of this here in just a moment. But Geekin's got to hold that angle on the side of this, shack, but it's really difficult. Again, it hurts E36. They used all their smokes early in those fights that they had to get here. Now E36, I think, at 14 kills or not 14, but 10 kills or 8-9 kills here. But remember early on, I said they're using a lot of smokes, and those are on phase 6, and those are smokes they don't have for the end of the game, so they can't cover their angles. They have to use the smokes that Mad Clan puts down to try to make this work.
And, Mad, another team that's always been around and playing pretty well. They've got that one win. I think they're in second place in the standings overall now. Big win there, though, for them.
Huge.
Again, we just might not know who's going to take this until game 12.
Likely. Now I really feel like that's the case.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we had 2 new winners in the next 2 games.
I think so. Yeah, it feels almost like a silly prediction, but it is becoming more and more true here. Again, Ghibli and E36 both eliminated in the final 4. They could have taken the lead. Not going to happen this time.
Yeah, and Ghibli doing a pretty good job in this game, honestly. All things considered, they're getting kills. They get themselves into a chance at the end of the game. It was a tough fight. Mad had to compound. Mad was defending it quite well. Really communicating well with the positions of Ghibli. You could see the grenades were trying at least to be put onto positions of Ghibli players, and to some success, some not. But that's what you got to do as Ghibli, is just keep getting into these late games. Pick up kills, and that's probably going to be one of your win conditions at this point.
So here they are. I don't want to harp on it too much, and this really isn't even a Korean region thing. It's just the Korean teams, the ones that are usually to work for them.
Yeah, but in Korea, it's day to day, man. You can see here today, all of a sudden, the Korean teams showed up and did well. It is so bizarre how this event works. It's like every day, it's like China or Korea, and I don't understand why that's the case. It doesn't make any sense that that's the case, because the circles are all over the place. It's two different maps. Everything changes every time, and I don't have a rhyme or reason to why this keeps happening.
It's weird. We're going to go to Myanmar for game 2 tonight, game 8 overall, and let's see what happens. But right now, the teams from Korea that we thought were going to do very well are running out of tournament.
Yeah.
They're just, especially when you look at the very bottom fraggers, you need to basically win 2 chicken dinners and then almost get lucky.
Yeah.
In the sense that somebody else isn't going to scoop up a second or even a third win here.
Right. You have to start winning games right now. It has to be this next game. For a team like Gen G, even a Freak of Freaks kind of needs a win even though they've got enough kills to kind of keep themselves in the conversation. Gen G does not. Gen G has to purely get it done on wins at this point. They just have to come through and rack in, 3 wins would probably be feeling very comfortable. 2 would be maybe okay, but probably not. I don't think 2 wins and a low amount of kills is going to get it done. I think it needs to be, if you have a low amount of kills, you need to get 3 wins.
Yeah. So the leaderboard overall, Ghibli still in the front, man. And if nobody gets a second win, it's looking more and more likely that Ghibli is just going to power ahead. Now, again, Ghibli, a big morale blow in that last game. They didn't actually basically confirm their victory in the tournament in that last game.
Yeah.
Had they gotten a second win and just kept getting kills with 5 more maps out there, in the way the games are going here today, it's reasonable to say they could win.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, you're always going to feel like you can win a game.
Yeah.
I mean, at the highest level, these players feel like they can always win. You know, they're just always feel like they're good enough to be here. They're good enough to be on top. They can win every game. But I think if I'm Ghibli, I'm not super upset about that last game. I think they played pretty well, especially considering, remember, they were coming from the north, and they got one player, like, stuck in a shack by himself, and then the rest of them were, like, trying to figure out what the heck to do. The fact that they get to the late game like this, I think is pretty impressive overall. So, you know, I agree with you that they're probably beating themselves up over this. I don't think they should too much.
We're moments away from hopping into the next map here, but right now, you know, GFY, Pero, E36, MCG, KX, and Ghibli all have wins.
Yeah,
It's really just comes down again to the wire here.
well, everything's just so win dependent. It's hard to like yet talk about what the end of this day is going to look like, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, if somebody gets a second win, that changes the landscape dramatically. If another team just gets another single win, then things are kind of the same. You know, we're just talking about kills. There's Kai Shin. You know, Kai Shin there did okay in that game, but they couldn't really effectively maneuver out of the mansion. It is a bit tricky when you're going east out of the mansion. You'd rather be going north if you're going to pick a direction, but they're still pretty solid, man. I still think this team can absolutely get it done. I mean, I don't know, though. It just, again, the start just makes me feel like it's going to be a Korea day. Like, we're just going to see, like, 5 Korean wins, maybe E36 somehow. Like, that was one of the best games from E36 I've ever seen, period, except at the very end.
Yeah. Guys, we're getting ready now to go into game 2. This is a shot of our beautiful augmented reality stage here for PCS4 Asia. We have a plane path coming from the west, a little bit southwest, and then veering towards the center east.
Yeah, Miramar time, guys. Again, if you didn't know, we're just alternating maps each time. And so I think you and I talked about enough. We really like this as a guy.
I think it's more interesting just as a caster and as a viewer.
Yeah. It's nice to kind of just, I mean, it's kind of like when I play PUBG, I don't want to get the same map over and over again.
Yeah, you know, the variety is good. And so we're just waiting for the rest of our players. No, actually, we're ready to go. Yeah, 30 more seconds. We're going to hop right into this. Excuse me. And so, yeah, let's see what kind of a game we're going to have here. It's been a very even spread of wins here. So much so it's kind of impressive. It shows just how fierce the competition is and, like, just how down to the wire this very well could come. And it might just get more and more spread out.
Yeah.
We may have, a second team with another win today and a third with another win. Nobody able to get up to that, too. And maybe this just comes down to kill count. Who knows?
I mean, if you had asked me coming into this event how many teams are good enough to win it, I'd say almost every one. Yeah, there's maybe a few teams that I wouldn't put in that bucket.
Not Gex, not T1, I know.
Yeah, and that actually might be it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think even EMT can actually win this.
Yeah, I think MTech has the potential in a chicken dinner format to win this. They're a very passive, safe team. They played great BWS, but so far it's been a bit of a struggle here for them on this stage. A few fights where they're outclassed. I will say that is their weakness. Their ability to team fight compared to particularly Chinese teams is lower right now. But a lot of Korean teams have historically been better as well. So for MTech, it's more about their positional game. Like, they're a very smart team. They're a very patient team. That's where they're going to get their wins. And again, I think that benefits them in this format.
Okay, so every team is now jumped out of the plane. We're waiting for that circle to come here. Are we going to have another moment where Mad is going to be in an engagement right away? Keep in mind, they just came out of a victory here for the first game of the night.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit unsure of what Donawa did at the why in phase 1 would they try to push Mad out of the bottom of that compound? Like, it's not. They weren't even holding anybody. You know what I mean? Like, in the bottom of it, they were up on top anyway. Why not just let them stay there? And then if the circle comes to you, if it just magnets to you like it did, all of a sudden you've got the better position to take that fight, potentially, like Mad did against Ghibli later on. Like, you're in the opposite position. You're in the position that Mad was.
Now, we've got a circle here that pulls to the north here, going a little bit further over here to the west. And really that means we don't know what kind of game we're going to have so far, because there isn't any kind of hard-shifted circle to the corner of a map. And so we just got to wait and let the looting begin and see where the teams are going to form. It should be noted that because of the plane path and the fact that the circle pulled this far up, the northern part of our circle is vacant. And we're going to see if anybody can capitalize on that. Because some of these smart teams, not every team is always the fighting team. Some of these teams realize in a moment like this, we can just veer up to the top and basically play a quiet and frankly easy first half. Maybe we don't have to fight until around phase 4.
And I think that's a very good strategy in a circle like this. I think exactly what you're saying is what I like to play when I play this type of game in this circle. This is how I would rather play PUBG. I mean, I'd rather just get to the north, kind of maneuver my way, scout out what's going on the craters and the mountains in front of me, on the the La Croberia road and that kind of thing. And then just work my way in, and you can see here at the end, 2-tap gets the vision. I mean, that's the advantage you have with those smokes is you can usually see the player that's in the smoke come out before they can see you. Yeah. Usually.
Now,
especially if it's your smoke.
This shot we've got here, Matt is over in El Pozo. I don't think we're going to have that much fighting. I think if we do, it'll probably be the bottom right part of the circle over the hilly area here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Typically in circles like this, you might get some fighting around power grid earlier, like kind of in the area you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's, in a weird way, I kind of hope we don't. Like, this is bizarre to say, but I don't want to see early fighting. I want to see these teams maneuver and be smart and try to keep 4 alive until the end. Like, this is the chicken dinner format. Like, play for it. You know what I mean? Like, I get playing for kills if you're in Ghibli's position.
Like, if Ghibli has 3 wins, I think you just go on the hunt.
Oh, heck yes.
Every game. And I think you actually might want to drop near the other team.
Oh, totally.
And go for an assassin move almost. But nobody's there quite yet. Again, I am just surprised, DNW, so low with kills here. Gen G literally at the bottom.
I can't
of the kill count. I mean,
I cannot believe that.
I thought almost anything was possible here, but I did not imagine the Gen G just literally being in last.
Not dead last. I mean, they've had days or weekends where they don't perform well. That's every team in the world.
Well, that's anybody who's a competitive player. Is you can't always be the best,
right?
Or if you are, then you're literally the focal point of the entire esport.
Yeah, then we're talking about you all the time.
And you're like Flash or somebody, or it's like, well, this is just crazy. This is good,
We're literally making statues of you outside
Flash or
places.
Faker, one of these players where it's like, well, that's just kind of crazy. You're just so good.
Yeah, you're so much better.
And so we don't really have that in PUBG. And even with the reputation that 4AM had, where are they now?
Right.
They're in 9th.
It's not going great.
17 is even ahead of them in kills here. And they don't have a victory yet, so the landscape shifts quickly in this game.
Exactly. I wouldn't be too surprised if this is, maybe a 4 a.m. game.
What do you think of KX's Beetlejuice outfits that they're wearing? Why are they dressed like American prisoners in the 30s?
It's the chain gang.
Yeah. They're dressed like a chain gang right now.
Hey, right. Yeah, man. Warden ain't been nice to them.
That is, dressed like...
The Beetlejuice one, Bobby.
French sailors.
The French sailors. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice.
And that uses up my striped shirt roast. I have no other material. Other than I just noticed that. I'm like, that's an unusual outfit you're in. So, in this game... again, I think it's going to be quiet. If there is a fight, it's probably one that was unintentional and then forced. But it should just be a slow early game. And again, this is sort of the nature of the beast when it comes to this rule set. Why would you be going ham when the chicken dinner is the most important thing? Why would you risk yourself? And that's why a lot of times we're going to see players peek out with scopes, and even if they see somebody, they don't take the shot.
Yes, exactly. It is a much quieter game in the beginning. You just don't need to get people, you don't need to kick the bee's nest. There's no reason to get those things angry at you and stinging you when you can just walk by and, get further into the forest to get whatever your goal is. I don't know if you're looking for treasure, what have you, but in this particular situation, okay, how did Gen G just lose somebody? It just happened off screen. We didn't get to see it here.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Sura's way down. This is way away from the rest of the team, out by himself.
Genji's done this sometimes, but Genji's just playing so badly. I mean, this is a wide spread. I get it. You want to get some information out here and try to see what you're doing, but be careful, man.
Yeah.
Even in a phase 1 circle, especially when this is so much about survival, if you get picked off, you're just not going to get rezzed if you're that far away.
Yeah, I don't even know what happened there. Of course, we didn't get to see it, so it's hard to say one way or another. Asura out on his own trying to maintain that anchor position for Gen G, just watching the backside of them most likely, and somehow got snuck up on by T1. I can't assume that maybe he got shot in a drive-by. Maybe T1 was in vehicles and he didn't think that, and they just hit a crazy good shot. That happens, and if that's the case, then hey, credit to T1, and then you can't really blame Gen G if wild stuff like that happens.
Well, I mean, then
you just got to tip your
Everybody's had that Pubg game where you're walking and a bullet flies through your face from across the map. You're like, okay.
Yeah, and it was it's like a nice shot.
That was impressive.
Yeah, you got to take
you go, you hacker. Okay, impressive. That's gonna happen. It's all about trying to master the circles and figure out what opportunities can be given, and accepting that this is a game where, of course, you can see kind of all the way across the map. I mean, you can see at these insane distances.
A kilometer,
being picked off at a crazy range.
Yeah, the game, I think it's a full kilometer is the furthest you can render in the game. But yeah, you can see for forever, basically. I mean, literally, you're not hitting any shots further than that anyway. So.
Yeah.
The bullets go as far as you want them to, though. In theory. That's why you got to try, on one of the maps, there's a bazooka kind of thing. So, every time, one of the famous streamers, Choco Taco, does this, infamously, but, I'll pick that up and just shoot it in the air and just, if I kill somebody, well,
yeah, it's hey, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I did it. But why not? Because I'm not going to, because it takes up a whole slot in your guns. You only have 2 guns. And so, I'm just well, I don't want to carry it, but why not shoot it and see if I get lucky?
Yeah, see what happens, fire it off, and that's gonna be hilarious if you do hit something.
Exactly. Then I at least have something to laugh about with my friends.
So we got to see what kind of circle we have, but we may have almost no action here.
It's hard to tell what's going to happen on Miramar until phase 2. Then you really have a lot of information. So for now, everybody playing it safe, waiting, and I think that's the way it should be. This is how most chicken should be played.
So E36, they've actually got a pretty good spot here, right in the middle. I should point out, actually, a lot of our important teams here, like MCG, MAD, are all pretty nicely positioned here. Wow, and now it is going to get interesting. Definitely, Danawa is very happy with this. They've got a nice spread on the mountain, and all these teams are going to be fighting each other while Danawa just, lets the time run.
Yeah, and so Danawa can just chill here. Eventually the circle will leave them, but they can play edge. They can play, south to north pretty effectively, keep their vehicles alive, and, do what they do best and make a dash for the center positions, because this is almost assuredly going to end east of that fishhook. So there's that mountain that kind of looks like a fishhook on the outside, on the east side of Pozo. And that's unplayable. So the circle kind of has to end somewhere over in this vicinity by power grid almost. It most likely will, I should say. That is the most likely place to end. So a lot of the teams on the eastern side, they're not moving because the circle still has a high potential to end up somewhere around.
So it's very possible 17 might be in the best spot here.
Yes, 17 or MCG are great spots.
Okay, we're watching 4 Angry Men right now. About to get a fight with Kia. Kia, an extremely good team engaging here. Well, I say that, but now 4AM is just dominating here. Loki fires back. Ooh! Does manage to get away. Goes for an execution. Nicely done. 2 of the Kia players have been wiped. Sorry, actually 3. And I mean, I think that's probably the end of the story. I don't think there's any real pressure for 4AM to actually close it out. I think they've basically averted a threat, and they're going to continue to try to hold this position up here as they are in the circle. But back to what you were saying, 17 might be in the best spot. We'll see, maybe, but they're another team that hasn't gotten a win that could get a win. They've looked strong enough to take games before.
Yeah, this could still go northeast as well, so it could go to the other, kind of opposite direction of them, in which case it's a problem. Speaking of problems, MTech is going to have Peaky fall.
Oh, wow! Great shot there.
Oh, Guyon.
You don't normally expect to get a headshot that well, but he pulled it off. Beautifully done.
Yeah, that is some great shooting. They take long down, so now MTech's basically got control of this compound. There's nothing Games Forever Young can do about this. They need to just get this res and lick their wounds and try to regroup, because that fight is done.
The team GFY that basically lost that fight, I didn't realize how low they are in kills. Look at this. They have 11.
They're also struggling.
They're also struggling. They've got to win. But yeah, they're right at the bottom as far as the kill count goes, as far as really having any good engagements. And I think we kind of saw that highlighted there. Clearly a much better fight for the opposing side.
You can see Spear getting up on basically the highest point on this spot. He's going to see Mamu for it. Decent chance. Very, very nicely done.
Downs him and says, "Who's next?" Ooh. Oh, gotta be careful though. You can be hit from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, now he's really relying on his teammates that are behind him to make sure that he can get down into this spot, safely and heal. And plenty of cover available. No other teams behind them to their north, so that's perfectly fine. And yeah, Peril has to again move forward. You lost a guy, so be it. Let's do something else. Wow. Okay, so a lot of this fishhook still in this. Now things get weird. There's a lot of different spots that this could end. It actually could go southeast. Hard shift to the southeast to get MCG. A decent spot. MTech could still end around them potentially, but that mountain, it's gonna try to move away from that unplayable stuff as much as it can in the next phase.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun to see where exactly the circle continues to close in on. I mean, we're only in phase 3 here, but it seems like it could go in a couple different spots now. It doesn't seem to be, it's not going to be a power grid circle anymore, most certainly, unless it just keeps going down towards that edge of power grid.
Be weird,
I guess
yeah,
it could.
It could.
It's not impossible, but I don't think it's likely to happen here. So, especially on the eastern side of the circle, I think there's going to be a lot of fighting. GFY is in a very comfortable spot in that if they can hold their spot, they can kind of pick and choose where they want to go. But they don't seem to be very good at fighting in general.
No.
So they may just get bullied off that hill as well.
Yeah, either get bullied off of it, or when they're coming down it, just kind of flounder and try to crash something and it doesn't go well. Is kind of what it feels like has been the MO.
Yeah.
But you never know. Maybe they have a good round in them again. They did get one win. That's kind of been their saving grace. Otherwise, they'd be the worst Chinese team in this tournament so far. Goodness gracious, God.
Damn.
Look how confident he is. I mean, he continues to impress me. I think God be a player to talk about in that. He's done it across multiple esports. He played League of Legends at the highest level as well, and he also plays PUBG at the highest level. I mean, that's insane. First of all, those are wildly different games.
Yeah, it's crazy you get one of these players that can just play, like, any game they pick up, they're good enough to play on TV. It's like, how's that? You're just that good. Your mind is that well-wired that you can just basically be the greatest. Especially when you consider online games like anybody can play and you can always get good competition because you can connect immediately. It's like, yeah, no, I'm one of the greatest.
And he's always keeping up with the metas. He's always in it as a player we're talking about.
Yeah.
He's a great play caller. He's a great mind for the game. And you can see there, he's very good at shooting too. You saw earlier against Damwon Kia. He made them look bad. He does it all. And, he's got Forever on his team who's actually even better as a fragger. So, that 4AM team, again, you can never count them out of anything. They're actually crazy. You can see here they're making the move. If you look down on the mini map in the bottom right, just ahead of GEX. GEX just going to be comfortable settling up on this hillside for now, trying to keep their vehicles somewhat safe. Afrika next to them.
Here we go. Phase 4. We're going to get an idea of what